Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Lidington, Minister for Cabinet Office. He's delivering a speech on what the withdrawal of the Union means for the four nations of the UK. Let's listen in.
All parts of the United Kingdom. And I hope that the devolved governments will choose to take that approach too. After all, for someone in Broughton, or Llandudno, or Welshpool, Cardiff can seem as distant as London. And from the perspective of Orkney, priorities may look very different from those of central Scotland. Our aim should be nothing less than to see our entire country coming together and having their voices heard. It means people here in Wales, as well as in Scotland, Northern Ireland and England, and it means our villages, towns, cities and communities throughout the United Kingdom all having a voice too. At the heart of the Conservative political tradition is both patriotism, loyalty to the special shared union of the United Kingdom, but also a commitment not just to individual rights, but to the vital importance of family and community, of village, town and county, in enabling individual men and women to find meaning, value and fulfilment in their lives. As Edmund Burke put it more than 200 years ago, to be attached to the subdivision, to love the little platoon we belong to in society is the first principle, the germ, as it were, of public affections. It is the first link by which we proceed to love of our country and of mankind. And I suspect that most of us here derive our sense of who we are from many different sources, from our family, from where we live, perhaps from a sports club, a choral society or community group that we support, in many cases from our religious faith, and of course from our nation. And in the United Kingdom, we know that there is no contradiction between being an ardent Welsh or Scottish patriot and being a committed supporter of the Union. If I needed any reminder of that truth, it was when the Secretary of State for Scotland was gloating to me about the rugby result on Saturday. Looking back to the last century, I think, being honest, that my party was too slow to recognise that the increasing calls for devolution and decentralisation represented a genuine shift in public mood. But I think if you look at our record in government in the last 8 years, we've demonstrated that we've got that message. The two Scotland Acts, in 2012 and 2016, have made Holyrood one of the most powerful parliaments of its kind in the world. City deals in Scotland, backed by more than £1 billion of UK government spending, have now either been agreed or committed to for all of Scotland's 7 cities. The Wales Act is delivering a stronger, fairer, more accountable devolution settlement for Wales. City deals for Cardiff and Swansea and the future North Wales growth deal are supporting the industries and jobs of tomorrow. The passage of English votes for English laws at Westminster means that MPs representing English voters rightly have the final say on issues which matter directly to them and to their constituents. We've created new combined authorities with elected mayors across England, putting power firmly in the hands of local people in the West Midlands, the West of England, Tees Valley, Cambridgeshire, Greater Manchester, Liverpool and Sheffield. And this government will continue to strive to restore devolution in Northern Ireland and will remain fully committed to the Belfast Agreement. We will continue to govern in the interests of all parts of the community in Northern Ireland and to uphold the totality of the relationships embodied in that agreement, both East-West and North-South. And we shall stand by the commitments in the joint report between the United Kingdom and the European Union that was agreed in December last year. But while we can take pride in that record of progress in decentralising power, We can and should go further to drive forward both the economic and the political regeneration of our country. So we're working with both devolved and local authorities to help them coordinate their own economic plans with our UK-wide national industrial strategy, bringing together local businesses and leaders to deliver growth, enterprise and job creation in every part of our country. We're supporting combined authorities located around our English cities to adopt elected mayors should they wish to do so. We will bring forward a borderlands growth deal, including all the councils on both the Scottish and the English sides of the border, to help secure prosperity in southern Scotland. We will build on the future North Wales growth deal by also fostering opportunities between Welsh cities and the rest of the United Kingdom, for example, by linking economic development opportunities in Cardiff, Newport and Bristol. And we have committed to looking at a city deal for Belfast. Now, at the same time, we are unapologetically committed to the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom. So, alongside those initiatives to bring more powers closer to the people, we're working to ensure that the institutions and the power of the United Kingdom are used in a way that benefits people in every part of our country. For we're a country that not only has a shared past, but continues today to draw strengths from all parts of the Union. There are more than 31,000 United Kingdom civil servants based here in Wales, including in our new UK government hub in Cardiff. 8 out of 10 goods lorries leaving Wales go to the rest of the UK, highlighting the importance of the United Kingdom-wide market. Bombardier's factory in Belfast has a supply chain of 800 companies throughout the UK and Ireland, supporting thousands of highly skilled jobs. And it's from the Department for International Development's joint headquarters in East Kilbride in Scotland that the UK's international work to vaccinate children against killer diseases, to educate girls and to provide clean water and sanitation to people who desperately need it is being driven. And of course, our base on the Clyde, home to thousands of shipbuilding jobs, is central to the United Kingdom's defence capabilities. Put simply, we are all more prosperous and more secure when we work together for our common good as one United Kingdom. Now, leaving the EU presents many challenges for our centuries-old union story, and opportunities too. And some want to use this as an excuse to loosen the ties that bind us together or even sever them completely. I believe such an outcome would leave every one of our 4 nations both weaker and poorer. The task before us isn't an easy one. It is complex. How do we allow greater control across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland over the things that affect them separately, while preserving the things that affect us all collectively as we return powers from Brussels to the United Kingdom? How do we ensure that a new wave of devolution delivers for the people of Scotland, Wales, England and Northern Ireland, but at the same time protects the essence of our union? For a start, we have all, the UK government and the devolved governments together, agreed that we will need to have frameworks that break down which powers should sit where once they have returned from Brussels. And that is a sensible and constructive approach because these powers are not all the same. Some are very obviously for the devolved governments and parliaments to exercise, and they don't need any involvement on a United Kingdom-wide basis. For example, the devolved governments are best placed to manage the safety and quality of the water people living there drink, as well as looking after and caring for the natural environment. At the same time, there are other powers which are, yes, for the devolved governments to shape according to their own needs or ambitions, and where they don't need legislation to underpin how what they do relates to the other nations of the UK, but where it would nevertheless still be in everybody's interests to agree a looser form of cooperation, perhaps a memorandum of understanding between the devolved and the United Kingdom governments. For instance, we will need to be able to continue to work together on important domestic policy areas. For example, ensuring that a vital organ that is donated by someone in one part of the United Kingdom can still be used in a transplant to treat a patient in another part of the United Kingdom. Now, those powers should rightly still be devolved, not centralised, and that is the offer we have put on the table. But on the other hand, some powers are clearly related to the United Kingdom as a whole and will need to continue to apply in the same way across all 4 nations in order to protect consumers and businesses who buy and sell across the UK, in all parts of what we might call the United Kingdom's common market. That market is one of the fundamental expressions of the constitutional integrity that underpins our existence as a union. The government will protect that vital common market of the United Kingdom by retaining UK frameworks where necessary. We will retain our ability not only to act in the national interest when we need to, but to do so with a unity of purpose that places the prosperity and security of all our citizens, no matter where they're from or where they were born, to the fore. For example, at present, EU law means that our farmers and other food producers only need to comply with one set of package labelling and hygiene rules. 4 different sets of rules in different parts of the United Kingdom would only make it more difficult and more expensive for, say, a cheesemaker in Monmouthshire to sell to customers in Bristol, or for a cattle farmer in Aberdeenshire to sell his beef in Berwick-upon-Tweed. Now, these are everyday issues affecting how people live their lives. They're issues that people in the UK expect governments to get on and agree in the clear interests of families and businesses in every part of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland alike. So that is entirely what the United Kingdom government stands ready, waiting and willing to do. They're the steps that will ensure that the United Kingdom's market continues to work as it always has done, to ensure that the factory in Paisley can continue to sell freely to Preston, that the family firm in Swansea continue to buy supplies from Swindon, and customers in Londonderry can still place their order in Leeds without any extra red tape or expense. And I want to say one thing further. The Prime Minister has been clear throughout the negotiations with the European Union that we want to preserve the standards that protect employment and workers' rights, to deliver consumer protection and safeguard the environment. And that means keeping these high standards right across the whole of the United Kingdom. And for our part as United Kingdom government, we're committed to working in partnership with the devolved governments to ensure that those standards are universal in all 4 parts of our country. Now, it's fair to say that the road to agreeing how we go forward together has not always been a smooth and straight one. I, along with my predecessors in the Cabinet Office and the Secretaries of State for Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, have engaged closely with the devolved governments in order to understand their concerns and to respond to them. Those concerns have been expressed clearly, often forthrightly, throughout those conversations, but we have continued to talk, both at political and at official level. And even more importantly, we have continued to listen. The Prime Minister's first visit after entering Downing Street was to Edinburgh. 2 of my first phone calls upon moving across to the Cabinet Office last month were to the Deputy First Minister of Scotland and the First Minister of Wales. I met them both in person during my first weeks in this role in Cardiff and Edinburgh to underline my personal commitment to engaging constructively and striking the agreement that is in all our interests. While they have always acknowledged that the government has said we want to see many of the powers from Brussels go straight to the devolved governments, there's been a question throughout about what our starting point should be. Should those powers sit at a UK-wide level while we then agree the future frameworks? Or should they sit at a devolved level while we agree the future frameworks? The government has listened to the different points of view from the Scottish and Welsh governments, from Welsh and Scottish colleagues in both Houses of Parliament at Westminster, and to the views expressed in the devolved parliaments. And just last week, we held constructive discussions in London where we put forward a considerable offer. A commitment that the vast majority of powers returning from Brussels will start off in Edinburgh, Cardiff and Belfast and not in Whitehall. And let me be in no doubt, this would mean a very big change to the EU withdrawal bill that is before Parliament and a significant step forward in these negotiations. It would put on the face of the bill what we have always said would be our intention: wide-ranging devolution, not just away from Brussels, but from Westminster too. And if accepted, this offer puts beyond doubt our commitment to a smooth and orderly departure from the European Union in a way that doesn't just respect the devolution settlements, but strengthens and enhances them. So our proposal is to amend the bill before Parliament to make clear that while frameworks are being agreed, the presumption would now be that powers returning from the EU should sit at a devolved level. Westminster would only be involved where, to protect the UK common market or to meet our international obligations, we needed a pause, and I stress a pause, to give the governments time to design and put in place a UK-wide framework. As I've said before, we expect to be able to secure agreement with the devolved governments about what framework should or should not apply to each power. And where powers do need to be returned to a UK-wide framework, we will maintain the ability for the United Kingdom Parliament to legislate to do that. Just as the current provisions within the EU withdrawal bill on releasing powers to devolved governments are intended to be by consensus and agreement with the devolved governments themselves, so we should expect this new inverted power to operate in the same way, by consensus and by agreement. Nor would this proposed arrangement prevent the devolved governments from doing anything that is already within their competence. At the same time, our proposal offers an important protection. It would ensure that were there not to be an agreement, and not having an agreement on a framework would put at risk the smooth and orderly exit that we all need, the UK Parliament could protect the essential interests of businesses and consumers in every part of the kingdom. So I'm clear that it is in the interest of all parts of the United Kingdom to agree a way forward that fully respects the devolved settlements, that preserves the integrity of the United Kingdom market, and maintains the UK's ability to secure an agreement with the European Union on our future partnership. Our new proposal is a reflection of the seriousness of our desire to strike agreements with the devolved governments, our seriousness about delivering more powers to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, while at the same time ensuring that there are no new barriers for people across the nations of the United Kingdom, so families can continue to buy and sell freely, so businesses won't face extra bureaucracy and higher costs, so people face minimal disruption to their everyday lives and maximum certainty that things can carry on as normal as we look ahead to the future. So I hope that the talks are now continuing between the UK and devolved governments will lead in coming weeks to an agreement that can be taken forward in the withdrawal bill and which we can all welcome as being to our mutual benefit. And so as we look to the future, this is the balance that working together we can strike. A strong and fair devolution settlement for our devolved partners with powers sitting at the most appropriate level. Common United Kingdom frameworks where necessary, with our constitutional integrity intact. By making that kind of agreement, we can truly become that United Kingdom we need to be here at home, and that greater, stronger United Kingdom abroad. For that is the task we now face, building a global Britain that is fit for the future, equipped not only to tackle head-on future global challenges, but confidently seize the new opportunities available to us. And so when we do speak and act on the world stage, we do so with one authoritative voice that both reflects and represents the interests of all four nations. A country that has the strength and flexibility needed to survive, indeed thrive, on that international stage. And with our considerable strengths, I'm confident that that future can be a secure and prosperous one. After all, we are the sixth largest economy in the world, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, the biggest European defence spender in NATO, with significant military capabilities and a proven readiness to deploy them in defence of our interests, a key player in a highly developed set of security relationships such as Five Eyes. Our country has one of the best diplomatic services in the world and one of its biggest aid and development programmes. We have worlds than any country bar the United States, a globally competitive economy with some exciting burgeoning industries like digital and fintech, a language that's the language of the world, and thanks to institutions like the BBC and the National Health Service, the greatest soft power of any nation on the planet. But just imagine if we spoke with four conflicting voices, each would be weaker, fainter and misheard as our global competitors shouted louder with a strong single voice. And a divided country at home would be weaker, less secure and less prosperous overseas. The unity that exists between our four nations gives us a scale of ambition that none of the four of us could possess alone. We need to be using our collective economic clout and the experience and reach of our diplomatic network in the United Kingdom to sell Scotch whisky and engineering expertise, Welsh cheeses and mini computers, buses and linens from Northern Ireland right around the world. And maintaining the common market of the United Kingdom will give us the heft to lead the charge for common regulatory standards at a global level. Having the right framework in place at home means we can be at the forefront of developing the new regulatory environment we need for the exciting technologies of tomorrow. And what we want is for innovators and producers right across Scotland, Wales, England and Northern Ireland to be able to get ahead of the curve and edge ahead of their global competitors. And it's also that by sticking together, we will be able to provide global leadership, discharging our international obligations, standing up for human rights, democratic values and the rule of law, and defending the rules-based international order that is so vital to our security and our prosperity together. It would be easy to loosen or even sever those bonds that connect us. But with a strong fair devolution settlement that ensures powers and decision-making are exerted as close to the people as is practical, I believe a sense of trust can be restored between the people of the United Kingdom and those they choose to govern on their behalf. And with common frameworks in place to maintain the integrity of our union, we can ensure that we continue to speak with that powerful voice globally. Each of those two principles strengthens the other. So let us seize the moment and focus on the prize that is on offer. A union greater than the sum of its parts, a country that remains a strong global leader, a united kingdom at home and an active force for good in the world. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much indeed. Right.
And that there, the Cabinet Office Minister David Lidington giving a speech really to calm the nerves of the four regions about Brexit, saying that there will be a strong and fair devolution settlement for all the regions and that it's important that the government speaks with one authoritative voice in its Brexit negotiations in the coming months.
I've been getting away with it all my